The nation is struggling to come to grips with what many are calling a deadly act of cowardice in New York City. 8 people are dead, more than a dozen injured yesterday in Manhattan when a man drove a rented truck on a bike path and mowed down pedestrians in the name of ISIS. The suspect in this case, Sayfullo Saipov, who once lived in Fort Myers, now faces terrorism charges. And these ties to Southwest Florida have been alarmingly common when it comes to terrorism cases.
Now we're learning a second man being questioned in the case. Muhammad Zawir Kadyrov also has ties to Fort Myers. And 4 in the Corner's Jasmine Miner speaking with some local terrorism experts to find out if this is just coincidence or something more here. Jasmine?
Patrick, the New York terrorist attack this week is only one in a long string of attacks with some kind of Florida connection over the last 2 decades. I spoke to a former FBI agent that gave his opinion as to why.
From 9/11 to D.C. to now a New York terrorist plowing through the streets of Manhattan. And they all have one thing in common, a connection to the Sunshine State.
In many of the major terrorist attacks over the last 15 years, there has been a connection to Florida. The D.C. sniper was enrolled in a Naples school. 14 out of the 19 terrorists for 9/11 took pilot training in Venice, and then came the Orlando Pulse Night Club shooting. After that, the Fort Lauderdale shooting. And now, the New York truck driver had 3 known addresses in Florida, 2 in Fort Myers. Is that a coincidence?
On first glance, it's a very logical question, all right? Such a large number of folks that are affiliated in some way with a terrorist organization have some claim to Florida.
After spending 20 years as an FBI agent, Robert Foley says Florida is ranked 4th with 8 arrests associated to ISIS. He says part of the reason is the 20 million population and the ease of coming and going.
It's easier to blend in a transient environment like a vacation place because you don't see the same faces all the time.
Agent turned lawyer says in the case of the New York driver, because he acted alone, it's a hard thing to catch ahead of time.
Using a car in a populated area to run innocent people over, there is virtually no way to identify the potential of that taking place until it in fact does take place.
Should citizens be concerned?
America is in good hands with the men and women of the FBI. If we are in fear, then they win.
Robert tells me the FBI's next steps in the New York driver attack would be continue looking for connections, checking everything from phone records to emails. He says they'll compare this info not only nationally, but globally. Jasmine Miner, Fox 4 in your corner.